Coming to you from the beautiful University of South Florida campus in Tampa, it's USF Housing Live!
Welcome everyone, this is USF Housing Live. I'm your host, Julia O'Hara with USF Housing and Residential Education. I'm coming to you live from the beautiful University of South Florida in Tampa, Florida. Housing and Residential Education is here to answer your questions as you prepare for your USF experience. If you're joining us live, type your questions in the comments and we will answer you on the show. Tonight's episode is all about student health. This evening, we will be speaking with the directors of both the USF Counseling Center and Success and Wellness Coaching. We will then interview Dr. Joseph Puccio, Executive Medical Director of USF Student Health Services. So, without further ado, let's jump into our first interview. Our first guests this evening are Dr. Jennifer Bleck, the Director of Success and Wellness Coaching, and Dr. Scott Strader, the Director of the USF Counseling Center. Hi, Dr. Bleck and Dr. Strader. How are you this evening?
Doing well. Thank you, Julia.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your evening to speak with us. I know that this year we're doing things a little bit differently virtually over Teams, but we appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Okay, so let's jump into some questions. Dr. Bleck, we'll start with you and then we'll jump over to Dr. Strader with the same question and we'll just go back and forth throughout the interview. Dr. Bleck, can you tell us who you are and what you do at USF?
Absolutely. So I am the director of the Success and Wellness Coaching program here at USF. I'm also one of the actual coaches, which means I am a nationally certified health and wellness coach.
Thank you. And Dr. Strader, can you tell us who you are and what you do here at USF?
Sure. I am director of the Counseling Center on the USF Tampa campus, overseeing mental health services provided to students, and I am a licensed psychologist in the state of Florida.
Great, thank you. So Dr. Bleck, what is a Success and Wellness Coach and what are the benefits of meeting with one?
So a Success and Wellness Coach is, as I said, a health and wellness coach. You meet how to motivate people towards achievement and behavior change. So what happens is you come in, you get to know your coach, build a relationship, and really work on developing your vision for success here at USF, as well as your just larger life satisfaction, and work with a coach towards building a plan for action steps and really doable things that you can work on a weekly or monthly basis to achieve. And with that, you can come up with a plan to stay motivated, as well as have a check-in system and some supports to help you get there.
Thank you. And Dr. Strader, what resources does the USF Counseling Center offer?
Sure. So the USF Counseling Center on the Tampa campus has about 30 licensed mental health professionals that are available to work with students. We work with students primarily individually in individual counseling, but we also have a pretty active and robust group psychotherapy program. So we work with students individually as well as in groups to help them deal with mental health or emotional concerns and just help improve overall life satisfaction, help them do better in school, help them feel better about their relationships, just a wide variety of issues that we end up seeing from students in the Counseling Center. We also provide outreach and consultation to the university community, so we work with student groups who are often in classes or speaking with university groups, student groups, about concerns that they may have. And part of our outreach and consultation services are also what we call drop-in groups. And these are groups that we offer that are geared toward either particular issues or maybe even particular groups of individuals, where students can just drop into a space and have some support from other students as well as a trained psychotherapist. And but the difference with the drop-in groups is that there's no pre-registration required. You don't have to be a client of the Counseling Center. You can just come in and drop in whenever you think that might be helpful for you.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Bleck, what services in addition to that coaching does Success and Wellness Coaching offer, or or could you expand on that coaching?
Absolutely. So coaching offers one-on-one individual coaching sessions where you sign up and can come in and meet with a coach for about 45 minutes to an hour for an initial session. And then you can come in for follow-ups for about a half hour. And you can have as many follow-ups as needed to work towards your goals. We ask for a commitment of usually about 3 sessions to start, just because that is what we hope for to help you pull in a commitment towards work towards your goals. And that's really what the traditional coaching looks like. We also offer group coaching by request, where we can really bring together groups of people and work on common topics. And then we also will now be offering, as of the fall, laser coaching, which will consist of shorter 20-minute sessions with no commitment for follow-ups, where you can just come in and get a sense of what coaching is and try it out and just get a chance to chat with a coach and see what it's all about. And then you can come in and really just work towards any goals. We really work with anybody on a wide range of topics, anything from stress management to time management, all the way through physical health, disease management, and weight loss. So you can come in through any of those types of services and get a chance to just work through those topics with a coach.
Great. Thank you for that information. And Dr. Strader, what are the benefits of seeing a USF counselor? And in addition, what are some common misconceptions about seeing a campus counselor that you come across?
Sure. Well, I think there can be several advantages of working with a counselor. As with Dr. Bleck's program, we see a wide variety of students with differing issues. Depression and anxiety are clearly the top 2 and are in most college counseling centers. But relationship stress, academic stress, dealing with family concerns, as I said, relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, eating concerns, all are really concerns that we can work with and help students see a difference. I think some of the real benefits to counseling include being able to build some real skills that help you to deal more effectively with the symptoms. And by that I mean things like anxiety, depression, relationship concerns that may be bothering you, that may be just affecting your ability to enjoy life and to be able to function effectively either in the classroom or outside of the classroom on campus. And so there can really be some tangible benefits when it comes to building skills that you may not have had before, having new ways to cope with whatever these issues are, even if the concerns have been around a while. Being able to build new kinds of ways of managing these kinds of concerns can be really effective for folks. I think a couple of the misconceptions that we commonly see with counseling is, one, the sense that people are going to be able to know that I've been in counseling or know what I've been talking about in counseling, either my parents or faculty. And that's, I want to take care of that misconception and say that we are very tied into, and it's very important to us that our records and that your presence in counseling remain confidential and private. We're guided by privacy laws as well as privacy and confidentiality standards that require that for individuals over the age of 18 that we have a signed consent, that we have your permission in writing to share any information that is shared in counseling. So I think that's one misconception. The other one that I commonly hear about is that my problems have to be really, really huge and really overwhelming before I can benefit from counseling. And I would like to correct that as well and just say that we are more than willing to help with concerns that may not seem that major. And I really encourage students to seek services early on rather than waiting until concerns and symptoms may be really overwhelming. You don't have to be kind of stuck in a place where you're not functioning well or where you're failing all of your classes in order to benefit from counseling. In fact, we find it more helpful if you come in when things are just a little bit bad, perhaps, or a little bit troubling, so that we can help work with those concerns early and that you don't have to suffer in silence any longer than you have to.
Thank you, Dr. Strader. That's great information and great advice. Dr. Bleck, we have a couple questions from the audience asking if the coaching resource will be offered face-to-face or online this fall. Can you go into those details?
Absolutely. So coaching will be offered remotely throughout the entire fall semester so that we can maintain all standards of health and safety. It is offered to students enrolled in classes at all 3 students. At all 3 campuses, so anyone who is either actively enrolled in a class or anyone who's enrolled towards a degree-seeking program or certificate. So that means you can sign up for coaching even if you're not actively in a class, but working towards a program. So if you're starting classes in the fall, you can sign up now to get ready for it. And everything will be offered remotely through Microsoft Teams. You will have the option of it being audio only or a video session. And you'll have that option as you sign up for the session, or can change it once you get on with your coach to whatever you feel most comfortable with. Partially thanks to the generosity of the Counseling Center. Once we get back to being on campus and students are welcomed back on campus, there will be some spaces available on campus for you to do your private telehealth or telecoaching sessions if that is needed for while you're on campus, perhaps in between classes by request, where you can set that up with your coach individually.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Strader, I'll jump over to you and ask the same question of what counseling is going to look like in the fall.
Absolutely. So we pivoted pretty early as soon as campus closed and remote work began. We pivoted pretty quickly to remote work and telehealth work, and that's what's going to continue for us for all of our routine services as we head into the fall as well. So we use a secure private video conferencing software that is completely confidential. And we use that to be able to connect with students via video conference. And so that's how we'll continue to provide our services on a routine basis heading into the fall. I'll just reiterate what Dr. Bleck said, and that's that we'll be able to offer students some private confidential spaces around campus, so that can be by appointment and scheduled as well. What we found is that a number of our students identified when we moved to a remote environment that they didn't continue with counseling because wherever they were headed, whether that was their apartment or home, that they didn't have a confidential space to continue their counseling. So we've taken that very seriously and been able to locate a number of different spaces across campus that students will be able to use for appointments.
That's great to know. Thank you for that, Dr. Strader. So, Dr. Bleck, can we talk a little bit about what the difference is between a success and wellness coach and a counselor? And Dr. Strader, if you want to chime in on that too, we'll start with your point of view, Dr. Bleck.
Absolutely. So a coach is all about goal setting and active behavior change. We really focus on the present time and the future. I like to think of it more as the skills that you would learn working with a counselor or any type of therapist, or even as a physician as you get directions from a treatment team perhaps. You can come to a coach to really work on how to implement that into your daily life to make active change now. So something that you would work on with a counselor in the counseling center might be more related to your emotional well-being and really working on how to develop different types of coping mechanisms and ways to emotionally handle stressors in different situations as they arise. You could then come meet with a coach to really work on how to implement that into your life and move towards working towards your goals. So we really don't work on past, we don't really work on your trauma. We really focus on how to take the skills that you have and really work to get you motivated towards the things you want to achieve, help you determine what those goals are, and how to make some actionable steps to reach those goals. You come in, you meet with a coach to really work on how to find a way to hold yourself accountable and keep yourself motivated towards behavior change that would reach your goals. So it's much more about action and steps and behavior change than about emotional well-being and about developing those stressors as you and those stress responses as you would discuss more with a counselor. We really focus on those steps. Now, there are a lot of people that are in both at the same time. Many people go and seek a counselor to work on how to develop those coping mechanisms and learn how to handle different stressful situations, and then also meet with a coach to then work on a plan to implement those into their lives to reach their goals. Or you can meet with one versus the other. So we really work together collaboratively to figure out that plan, but the biggest difference is taking the skills that you already have, the motivation that's already in you, leveraging that, identifying your self-determined goals, identifying what will help keep you motivated there, and what is a plan that you can come up together with your coach to get you on a path to reach your goals.
Thank you for that, Dr. Bleck. Dr. Strader, do you have anything else to add on the end of the difference?
I think Dr. Bleck has done a great job of outlining kind of how they're different, how counseling and coaching may be different, but also how they work together. And I'll just compliment, I guess, what Dr. Bleck says and say that these two services can really complement each other to give you an opportunity to kind of explore emotionally what's happening for you, but as well as make sure that you're on target with your goals and plan and be held accountable for whatever changes you want to make.
I also want to add to that we also very frequently refer to other services on campus. So students will come into coaching very regularly and will help determine where on campus you can go to get the resources needed to reach your goals. And the reason I say that is for some students, they might not be sure if coaching or counseling is right for them. So I really welcome them into coaching as a way to just help determine also which place is best for them. It is very welcome for you to come to coaching, and coaching might not be the right place for you. You might do much better and benefit from going to the counseling center. You can meet with a coach, discuss what's going on, and work together to determine if coaching is the right place for you, or if we would recommend going and seeking the counseling center. So we can also offer that space to really help determine what's best for you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Bleck. Dr. Strader, this next question is for you. What advice do you have for a student considering counseling but is reluctant to try it for one reason or another?
Sure. And I certainly understand that it can be frightening sometimes, or even just anxiety-producing kind of activity to seek out counseling or to wonder what that's going to be like. What I would like to reassure folks about is that we really work for these spaces to be supportive and collaborative. And so what I would say is, if you think that there are things that can be better in your life, and you think that you can improve things in your life by sitting down and speaking with a professional, then that's what I would encourage you to do. And again, let me reiterate, I guess, or repeat what I said before, and that's that your problems don't have to be huge. They can seem pretty minor. They can seem more minor than other people in your life. But we really encourage students to come on in. We can often offer a same-day appointment with a counselor, which really just gives you a kind of touch point, 30 minutes or so, to check things out and to see if the counseling center may be able to help you with whatever it is that may be getting in the way for you.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Bleck, how does a student go about setting up an appointment with a success and wellness coach? And a question we're getting from the audience on top of that is there a price associated with it, or is it covered with tuition?
So first, let me answer the question. Coaching is absolutely free to all of our students. Program at USF, be it either actively enrolled in a class or just working towards a program at USF at all three campuses. So it is completely free of charge. You can sign up by going to our website on the USF website. It is just usf.edu/success wellness coaching, where you can just very easily Google USF wellness coaching and get there. And you'll be directed to a page which gives you a couple of options, one of which will be Meet the Coaches. We have a very diverse team of coaches, and you can find those pictures to know them. You can click on where you can sign up to do a discovery form where you can tell us who you are, a little bit about what you're hoping to get out of coaching, be it you don't know, or if you have something very specific that you want to come in and talk about. And you can really have a chance to just write that out and look at what coaching is a little bit more on that site. And that will then, by submitting that discovery form, direct you straight to our calendar system where you can select your own coach and schedule a session directly with them instantly in their calendar. You have the option of who your coach is and when your sessions are. We offer sessions 8 to 8 every day of the week, although individual coaches' availability varies, but you'll be able to see that on our system as soon as you sign up.
Great, thank you. And I'll pose the same question to you, Dr. Strader. How does a student go about scheduling an appointment to see a USF counselor, and is there a cost associated?
Sure. So the best way to schedule an appointment with a counselor is simply to pick up the phone and give us a call. 813-974-2831 is the number for the USF Tampa Counseling Center. And that is the best way to reach us between 8 and 5 Monday through Friday to schedule an appointment. We do have appointments available outside in the fall semester. We'll be outside of the hours at 8 to 5. So if you've got class or have other work responsibilities during the day, we can certainly accommodate that. I would also, as Dr. Bleck mentioned, recommend folks check out our website, learn a little bit more about what we do. We also have bios there for our different counselors so that they can kind of get to know who our counseling staff is. We would certainly welcome you to give us a call and then say, I may like to work with a particular counselor, and we can let you know what the availability of that individual is. And we can see if we can't direct you to someone that might be a good fit right off the bat. But pick up the phone, give us a call, let us know you want to be seen. We'll be happy to get you scheduled. Cost. There is no cost to counseling services on campus. If you have paid the health fee, then counseling services are free of charge. What I will add is that we do charge a fee for students who make an appointment but then don't show up for that appointment. So we would explain that during the first session and let you know kind of what that means. But we take our time very seriously and know that students are often waiting some period of time for services. And so we want to make sure that we both utilize our time in the best way possible.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. So those are the questions that I had prepared for you, and thank you so much for taking the time to answer the questions from not only us, but the audience as well. And is there anything else that either of you would want to add?
No, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to talk about the Counseling Center, and thank you for the invitation. And we just hope that students look for the resources that are available to them and really step outside, seek the services that may be most helpful for them.
I would mirror that and welcome students to just, give both of our services just a try. And even if you're not really sure of if you're ready to commit or if they're right for you, we're really here to help you explore if you would be able to benefit from these services. And I welcome you to reach out to us and ask questions and come give us a try if you feel like you would benefit from somebody to help sort through a little bit of what's going on right now and come up with a path and plan for how to get through the coming year.
That's great advice. I will say we have a couple more questions from the audience as you were making your closing comments, so I'm glad that we got to squeeze in a couple more. Both I'm going to direct to Dr. Strader. Tracy is asking if all counselors are licensed, and then if you could talk a little bit more about what the health fee is. That's a question from Mary Lisa.
Oh, sure. So we do have, most of our counselors are licensed. We have about 30 licensed professionals. We also operate a training program at the Counseling Center, which means we have trainees at the master's, at the predoctoral, and at the postdoctoral level. And the counselors that serve in those capacities are supervised and overseen by licensed therapists. So we have both licensed and unlicensed counselors at the Counseling Center, but all are overseen by licensed clinicians. The health fee is a fee that's paid by all full-time, well, not even full-time, but all students at USF. So if you see that health fee is charged to you, then you know that you have both the counseling services and health services, and then some various other ancillary services that are available to you for that semester.
Perfect. Thank you both so much again for your time this evening. And those are the end of our questions. So I hope you have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Julia. Good night.
Thank you. All right, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more USF Housing Live right after this.
We went on a campus rec adventure trip. Here's what happened. Me and Elisa got the opportunity to join our USF Campus Rec Center for one of their amazing adventure trips. Our destination? Withlacoochee. It's a bit far, but thanks to the van Campus Rec provided, we didn't have to drive there ourselves. During the drive, me and Elisa were able to get to know some of the people who also decided to go on this trip. It made the drive feel a lot shorter than it was. In no time, we were finally there. Before we went off exploring, our trip leaders had set up an icebreaker game to help us get to know each other. I wasn't the best at learning everyone's names, but it was still really fun. Once we knew everyone's names, we grabbed our hiking gear and we were ready to go. Withlacoochee was a very interesting trail. I've never done a lot of hiking personally, but our trip leaders made sure it wasn't too difficult of a walk. We were able to explore the Dames Caves and some other cool sinkholes. It was a bit of a challenge to go up and down the entrances to the caves and sinkholes, but we were all able to overcome it. After the caves, we walked around Withlacoochee and took in the sights. It was a good opportunity which led us to all get closer and led me to learn everyone's names better. The scenery was beautiful. At some point, our trip leaders found a good spot for us to hunker down for some lunch. They brought a ton of items for us to make our own wraps. They were actually pretty good. After lunch, we did some stretches and we were back on the trails. As the scenery changed, me and some of the hikers began speculating about old myths and folk tales native to Florida. We were hooked on creating conspiracies for the skunk ape for a good while. It was a lot of fun. On our way back, we found some strange landforms and even caught a glimpse at some animal tracks. Skunky critters. It was really nice being out in the forest for a few hours, and we even got to see some local fauna. All in all, it was a great trip. By the end of it, we were all exhausted, but we were very satisfied. Campus Rec's adventure trips are pockets of amazing experiences. They'll take you out of your mundane day-to-day and help you explore something you usually don't get to experience. Plus, the friends you make along the way may surprise you.
1, 2, 3.
You'll always be closer to these amazing trips when you're living the Bull's life.
Welcome back. I'm Julia O'Hara, and if you're just now joining us, this is USF Housing Live, and we're here to help you prepare to live the Bull's life at USF. Ask us your questions in the comments, and we will answer you live on the show. Our second guest this evening is the Executive Medical Director of USF Student Health Services, Dr. Joseph Puccio. Welcome, Dr. Puccio. How are you?
Thank you for having me tonight. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. It's good to see you, and thanks for spending your evening with us and answering some questions.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So we already have some questions from the audience, so I'm just going to jump right into some questions. But first, before we get to those, could you please tell the audience who you are and what you do at USF?
Yes. I am the Executive and Medical Director of Student Health Services. I'm also an Associate Professor of Pediatrics in the Morsani College of Medicine. Not only do I supervise and plan for student health services, I also see patients at the health center.
Great, thank you. And what kind of services are offered at Student Health Services?
So Student Health Services is mainly a primary care provider. We provide physical exams, we provide immunizations, we also provide sick visits, gynecological visits, we can do birth control counseling, we could do STI screening. We also provide psychiatric services, nutritional counseling, athletic training, and laboratory services.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to start at the top of where we have been getting audience questions. Lynn asked at the beginning of the show, so thank you for your patience, Lynn, as we got to your question. Do out-of-state students need to modify their health info, for example, health proxy, HIPAA, to be Florida specific before they come to campus?
No, they do not.
Okay. And the next question we have here, another one from Lynn. With false positive test results being an issue, will students immediately get a second test, or will they be put into isolation and tested the next day? I know that a lot of these things are, obviously we've never dealt with a situation like this before. So as we're planning, I know we might not have all the answers as of right now, but I wanted to throw that one to you to see if you had an idea of what the plan would be.
Yeah, so depending on the situation, anyone that is considered a high-risk contact or is symptomatic will be tested for COVID-19, and they will also be placed in isolation. Once we get the test results back, we'll be able to evaluate the situation a little more closely. We'll be reevaluating if the person continues to be symptomatic. However, if they do test negative and they're asymptomatic, we do know that there are quite a number of asymptomatic patients that develop symptoms closer towards the end of the incubation period, anywhere between days 10 through 14. So therefore, we will be isolating people for up to 14 days, depending on their circumstances.
Thank you. And if you know the answer to this question, are you aware if parents will be able to visit isolated students?
When somebody is isolated, we really do not want anyone that has not been in continual contact with that person during their period where they were incubating. So we usually do have somebody that if they are in isolation and they are positive, we do not allow anyone to visit during that time.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer asks, if a student is placed into isolation in a residence hall because of COVID, do they also receive medical care or advice from campus health personnel?
Yes, throughout your stay, once being diagnosed for COVID-19, we will be setting up a series of telehealth appointments during your period in isolation. And at any time during your isolation, you can always reach out to Student Health Services. In addition, during your isolation, you will also be sent what we call an isolation survey, which will be checking on how you're doing medically, as well as your mental health status, and an ability to communicate with us that will allow us to reach out to you in a urgent fashion if anything should happen to change.
Thank you. And Diana asks, if a student tests positive for COVID-19, will they be allowed to go home if possible to isolate, or will they need to isolate in place?
So we are actually encouraging people that if they do test positive, that they do go home. So this way that you could be with your family. However, if that is not possible, we are arranging to have isolation spaces available for students in residential housing.
Thank you. So we're going to switch gears a little bit away from COVID-19. I'm sure we'll go back to that. But the next question I have from Jennifer is, will USF be providing flu shots for students in the fall?
Yes, every year we provide flu shots. This year we're going to be doing it differently. In years past, we used to do a large flu event. However, this year, because we want to avoid large crowds, we will be setting up individual appointments to receive the flu shots. And these appointments will probably be starting sometime in mid-September.
Great, thank you. Sarah asks a similar question. With the current plan to allow students back on campus, will services resume for students to receive allergy shots on campus?
So yes, that is a service that we also provide. Thank you for bringing it up, because I did fail to mention that service. We will be able to provide it. Again, that is going to be a service that is provided by appointment only, and you are going to have to be screened before coming into the area to make sure that you don't have any symptoms for COVID-19 before meeting with the nurse who does the allergy injections.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go into a little bit more about the different precautions that SHS will be putting into place. But the next question I have for you is one of my prepared questions. Can students use their private health insurance at Student Health Services?
So yes, Student Health Services does accept many insurances. We do not accept them all. A list of insurances can be found on our website or also at USF Health. We do accept any insurances that USF Health accepts. We also do provide services for students that do not have insurance. If a student does not have insurance, they can see a provider at no cost, because of the health fee covers that cost.
Okay, thank you. And if a student needs to fulfill a prescription, where should they go? So
the USF Student Health Services does have an electronic health record that can electronically prescribe medications and send those prescriptions to any pharmacy in the state of Florida. However, when at USF, we have a wonderful pharmacy called the Bulls Country Pharmacy, which is located in the Marshall Center.
Okay, thank you. And we talked a little bit about the flu and the allergy shots, but what other vaccinations does Student Health Services offer?
So we actually provide a whole host of vaccines. We provide tetanus shots. We do provide the Gardasil vaccine. We will provide, as we mentioned, the influenza. We do provide chickenpox vaccine. And if you are, in future days when international travel is available, we do have a travel clinic where you could receive vaccines that you need to take in order to travel safely.
Okay, thank you. And what precautions does Student Health Services recommend students take in response to the COVID-19 pandemic?
So the Student Health Services first wants to strongly recommend that everyone be aware of their personal health. Pay attention to your symptoms to check to see if you have any symptoms. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Make sure you're having an adequate diet. We do recommend that everyone takes multivitamins. We do also recommend all of the standard precautions, including wearing a face covering. Make sure that you maintain your social distance of 6 feet or greater when interacting with other people or in public. And the other thing, which is one of the most important things, is make sure that you continually use proper hand hygiene. And the two ways to make sure that you can do proper hygiene is make sure you wash your hands for a minimum of 15 to 20 seconds, or if soap and water is not available, to use hand sanitizer.
Great. we have a question from Brenda asking how safe it is for our students to be living in the residence halls at this time. I know from a housing point of view, we're going to be putting a lot of extra precautions into the cleaning, into the awareness of really putting the responsibility on the resident to practice social distancing and make smart decisions. From the Student Health Services point of view, is there anything that you can add to that?
I think what we all have to be we all have to take personal responsibility in making sure we do everything possible to protect ourselves. There's no place anywhere in the world right now that does not have a risk. And the most important thing is to do everything that you can do to protect yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And we have a question from Antoinette. Will students be tested for COVID before moving into the residence halls?
So it is going to be required that all students that are living in residential housing do get tested prior to arriving on campus.
Great.
And we're going to have in approximately 2 weeks. Everyone will be receiving information of how we're going to collect that information.
Okay, thank you. And can a student get tested for COVID-19 at Student Health Services?
So there's a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is that Student Health Services will be testing, will have testing available for all students at the university. We may not be testing directly at Student Health Services. We are planning to have numerous sites around campus where students could get testing, but we will be providing opportunities for testing.
Okay, thank you. So this is another question about isolation. I know that we're still in the works of planning this information. So if you do have the answer for it, I'll throw this your way. Lynn is asking if a student is placed in isolation, will food be provided and can personal items be brought in, and will medical staff be checking in on them? So with whatever information that we have right now to provide for Lynn.
So this is something that we are actively planning for. I can give you some details, but I may not be able to give all the details at this point. So as I mentioned before, when a person is placed in isolation, the Student Health Services medical providers will be providing regular check-in visits, and also the student will also be given an opportunity that if they do need to get in touch with Student Health Services, that they know how to get in touch with the medical providers. As far as food and supplies, all of the information will be provided to the students. I know housing is working very closely with their food services partners to be able to make this as seamless as possible.
Absolutely. And all of that information will be provided, like you said, to the student if they come into that situation, and potentially on our website as well, but definitely over email to that particular student. So to that point on just safety throughout campus, Anjali is asking, will all common areas and shared areas on campus be open? For example, the common areas in residence halls, the library, the gym. So from the housing perspective, what I can say is that a lot of the areas that are shared in the residence halls will either be closed or modified so that we can encourage physical distancing. And of course, face coverings will be required when in those areas. But are you aware if places like the gym and the library will be open for use?
We are anticipating that those services will be available to students, but just as you mentioned, there's going to be modifications. I don't think there's a single area on the university campus that isn't going to be modified to promote safety and health and trying to keep everyone healthy, faculty, staff, and students. So it's safe to say, if the services are available, they will. If the services are available, there's going to be modifications, and there's definitely going to be changes than what everyone is used to for going into a library or going into a gym.
Thank you. Sarah's asking, if we are out of state, do we need to have a test done before arriving? I know we're getting a lot of questions about the prior testing, so we'll just go through them one by one as they come in case the guest is just now joining us.
Sure. No problems. I'm always ready to talk about COVID. Every student that will be in residential housing will be required to get tested prior to coming to campus.
And Christy is asking along those lines, how will students get tested prior to arrival?
So we are going to request that you be able to look at your local resources, either physicians, different locations like CVS, different county health sites to acquire that service.
Great, thank you. I'm just checking through all these questions to see if we're getting through them. Jacqueline asked earlier if Student Health Services will offer telehealth options in the fall. We talked a little bit about it earlier with Dr. Strader, but I wanted to pose that question to you as well.
Yes, Student Health Services will have a combination of services available. We will be providing telehealth services both in the morning and in the afternoon, and we will be providing well visits in the morning hours so that we're able to provide anybody that is symptomatic with any type of COVID symptoms, that we provide those care separately from other people that are not symptomatic.
Okay, thank you. And now switching gears over to the initiatives coming up for this fall, can you talk about any new initiatives that Student Health Services is taking for the upcoming year?
So because of COVID-19, we have been a little limited in what new services we could provide just because of the needs for COVID-19. But one of the new initiatives that I will say that has really been very well received, and I think has really kind of filled in a lot of gaps, and that is actually our telehealth service. We provide telehealth services for almost all of the visits that don't require any kind of procedure or vaccination or blood draw. So psychiatric visits can be done through telehealth, checking to see, if you have an earache or you have a headache or some kind of medical concern that you may have that, you really don't want to come into a health setting. You don't have to. We will give you clear instructions on how you can schedule an appointment for a telehealth appointment, and then how to actually use our telehealth services.
Thanks. And so we're getting a couple of questions regarding the time frame before arrival for testing. What is the time frame for testing before arrival? How many days before arrival should a resident be tested? Just along that similar question. Do you have an answer for that?
Yes, so we're really looking to have most people tested within 14 days of their arrival at USF. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be sending out some specific instructions that will tell you what is the time frame that we want the testing, and that we are accepting only the PCR test, not antibody test.
Great, thank you. And Edith is asking a question that I can answer on behalf of housing. Will parents be allowed to visit their children in the residential housing? As of right now, according to the addendum that we have issued, there will be no visitation. And Christy is asking another question. How are you providing for the overall mental health of the students if they are isolated, have no in-person classes, little contact, etc.? I know Dr. Strader talked a little bit about the counseling end and what resources are offered, but do you have anything else to add into Christy's question about providing mental support for the students?
Yes, that's a great question. If somebody is placed in isolation, we will be doing a survey, which will go out on a regular basis, at minimum once a day, depending on your symptoms, and maybe more frequently. But during that point, we will do a mental health check-in. And if there's any concerns, if there's anything that is concerning to you, we, as part of the survey, that we would be able to get you some mental health assistance as easily as possible, and usually would be in the same day.
Thank you, Dr. Puccio. So I have a couple more questions for you and wait to see if any more questions come in from the audience. But thank you so much for going through all these questions with us. Where is Student Health Services physically located? And in addition to that, if someone wants to learn more about the services that are offered, where should they visit, online or in person?
Great question. So Student Health Services, all the information about Student Health Services could be found on our website, which is www.usf.edu/SHS, or Student Health Services. And if for some reason you can't connect to it through that way, please feel free to do a Google search of USF Student Health Services, and that will bring you right to our main page. Student Health is actually located right next to the bookstore, and also it's about 2 buildings away from the Marshall Center. It is a 1-story building. It's kind of right next to the pond. So if you're walking down from the Marshall Center, if you see the pond, Student Health Services is the last building on the left.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Puccio. Those are all the questions that I had prepared for you, and we've gone through all of the questions asked by the audience. So thank you so much for your willingness to help us out this evening with answering all of those.
You're very welcome. If I can mention one key thing, if there's anything I could say that would probably be the biggest thing to prepare is if you bring your own thermometers. Mm-hmm. Okay. We really are encouraging people to make sure they have the thermometer so that this way, if they have to take their temperature, that they could check it in their room, and they could check it whenever they feel like it, if they feel warm and stuff like that, and they don't have to rely on using any other services.
That's a great recommendation. Thank you, Dr. Puccio. And thanks again for joining us. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
All right, before we wrap up, I would like to remind viewers that information regarding move-in has been posted on our website at usf.edu/housing. Students must schedule a move-in appointment between August 16th and August 23rd. The move-in sign-up form will be available in the housing portal early next week. Please continue to check your USF email for details, and we will continue to update our website with information as plans are finalized. If you have more questions about living on campus at USF, please email us at housing@usf.edu. We hope you join us for our next episode of Housing Live on Wednesday, July 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern. We will be speaking with USF Dean of Students Danielle McDonald and Monica Miranda from the Center for Student Involvement. You can watch on our Facebook or YouTube page, the USF Class of 2024 Facebook group, or the USF Parent and Family Engagement Facebook page. USF Housing Live is produced by Housing and Residential Education at the University of South Florida in Tampa. Our motto is best place to live, best place to work, and best place to learn. Thank you to tonight's guests, Dr. Jennifer Bleck, Dr. Scott Strader, and Dr. Joseph Puccio for joining me this evening. Thank you to our production crew, to you, our viewers, and of course, there's always just one last thing. Go Bulls! Good night, everyone.